Good evening, race fans. Welcome back once again. It is time again for Tuesday Night Racing here with the Alliance Sim Racing V8 Supercars Series. This is Season 3, and tonight for Round 7 we find ourselves visiting merry old England as we head to Snetterton for another round brought to you by Simple Racing Broadcasts. We are, of course, tonight tackling the Snetterton 300 circuit, this track blending high-speed straights with some very tight and technical sections, a couple of nasty hairpins in there as well, and this is going to be a true test of skill, as always, for our drivers as they take on this track in the Gen 3 Supercars tonight. Flowing corners, heavy braking zones, tricky traction areas on the way out of some very slow corners. It's got a little bit of everything, as well as some pretty interesting opportunities for overtaking. So we're looking forward to seeing all the action here on track tonight. I am joined, of course, once again in the commentary booth by my compatriot Josh Harris. My name is Jared Cole, and Josh, welcome back to the booth again for another week of racing with Alliance.
Thank you so much, Jared. Nowhere I would rather be on my Tuesday evening than in the English countryside with you here at Snetterton. Very interesting track, very typically English, I would say, Jared. Old school, unsurprisingly for an English racetrack. It is on an old airfield, which, like most of the other English track, means a few long straights, usually some bumpy turns, and as you pointed out, mate, a couple of really tight corners. But I'm interested to see the last couple of the last section of corners, I should say. All of that sector 3, some real challenges there in finishing off the lap. So it's going to be interesting. Big heavy cars, close racing. It's probably not a track that I would have picked for these cars, but I'm very excited to see how the guys and girls get about it tonight.
Absolutely, and you're spot on with Sector 3 of this track, particularly as you come through Nelson, Bombhole and Coriam, one of the widest continuous radius corners I think I can think of outside of perhaps, there's one in Japan somewhere I'm thinking of, and I can't think of the track right now, but it is absolutely one of the longest corners that I think I've seen these guys take on. So it's going to be very interesting to see if anyone does put a move on there into that very sharp final left onto the main straight. The race format for tonight, of course, we have solo qualifying coming up in just a couple of minutes' time. 2 laps for these drivers to set their very best around Snetterton on the 300 config and see where they start off in race number 1. Our sprint race tonight, of course, 12 laps long, which is, a little longer than it seems with an almost 5k track length. And then race 2, 28 laps with 2 compulsory stops. And we do have a 60% fuel tank limit in place for this evening's race as well. So that will certainly play into decisions being made around pit stops for race number 2. I don't imagine that these drivers will need to take fuel in both stops, but when they do, might be the deciding factor between glory and defeat this evening here at Snetterton. Plenty to play for. We're coming towards the end of the season, so let's take a look now before we get into qualifying at the championship table. And Josh Harris, Matt Vanderkrant out in front, a commanding lead at this point, isn't it?
It is. It's starting to stretch out. That's up over 50 points now, which is pretty impressive. But I guess I note that from memory, it's somewhere in the vicinity of 150, 160 points here for a race win. So it's certainly not over. Spriggs and Cairns, and I guess Varga and Logsdale are all within 100 points 200 points, and I really think that's sort of that position that you want to be in as we come into the back of the season. But I guess, as you pointed out, mate, Matt Vanderkrant does have a bit of a lead, and he probably needs something to go wrong for a huge amount to change here. But there'll be plenty of people all over his tail and looking to make positions up. There's no doubt about that.
Always will be, and looking forward to seeing who comes away with the win tonight. So Vanderkrant out in front, Spriggs, Cairns and Varga, though, still in hot pursuit, and quite a few drivers, actually the entire top 10 now cracking into the 1,000 points mark after last week's race. So plenty of drivers still up there, but Vanderkrant looking to retain his championship as we head towards round 10. Of course, only a few weeks away now. And Phillip Island, it's going to be an awesome place to finish off this season, I suspect. We've still got the Red Bull Ring and Sandown to go after tonight, but our focus here remains, of course, on Snetterton and looking to see what these drivers can bring as we go to, as you said, very typically English track. And yes, absolutely, side of an RAF airfield. I can't think of an English track that hasn't been built on an old airfield, honestly. I think that's pretty much the standard, isn't it? Was. Oh yeah, okay, fair. Brands Hatch, there you go. So that's one. I don't know how many more there are out there. I'm sure there's more than one, but haven't found too many. I haven't gone looking either. So that could be a little something to do with it. We are just about to get underway, of course, with our qualifying session, so we'll go and check all of that out in just a moment. We will, of course, ask you to stick around. Make sure you do catch the mid-race break. We've got a little announcement to reveal to all of the viewers at home, so looking forward to having a bit of a chat about that in the not-too-distant future. But we are going qualifying, so let's go to the track and check out the action as these drivers head out on their solo 2-lap efforts. And we will see what lies ahead for this evening's racing. And Josh Harris, I think we'll have to check out some of these early drivers and just see who it is that's bringing the speed right off the bat.
Yeah, I'm just starting to have a look now. It looks like the first of the cars are heading out on track. Certainly no one up to setting their fast times yet, but it'll be exciting to see who's going to go first and who is going to wait and see what the time is that is set. You know, we can see names like Van der Kraan is out on track, and Spriggs, for instance, but definitely a few of our other drivers still just sitting in the pits and biding their time. Gary Buckland is a notable name, still waiting in the pit lane. So a little bit of strategy at play here, no doubt. And whilst these guys get lone qualifying, they do have the track to themselves, and so there's no stress around traffic or anything like that. It is sometimes good to just to wait a little bit and see what sort of times other people are setting, so that you know, based on your practice times, just how hard you need to push.
Absolutely. As we watch Stephen Varga coming around, he's one of the first out on track this evening, so he'll be out there to set a very, very quick time right off the mark, I am sure. And Varga's always good for a good time, at least on track. I don't know about off track. That's probably something you can ask his teammates. But yeah, he's been quick all season, hasn't he, Vargs? And he's one to watch. I think we're getting a few sector times coming through below from the out lap, so that's probably a little ambitious to suggest that anyone's going too quick right now. But Stephen Varga just rounding the back part of the circuit, coming around that long Coram corner, and you can see it just stretches forever before he sets up for this run. So let's stick with him. In fact, let's take an on-board ride with him and get a driver's eye view of this track here at Snetterton. And coming down this front straight very, very fast, and much longer than it looks initially, before we head into the right-hand turn of Riches. They very kindly put out signs for us here, so I don't have to remember too many of the corner names. It's lovely. Then up to one of the first hairpin in Montreal. A very, very slow corner, this one, Josh Harris. These guys getting right down. You can see there to 60k an hour. That must feel unnatural in a Gen 3.
On a corner that tight, I think you'd be surprised at just how fast it actually does feel. But you made the point earlier, Jared, over 5 kilometres for this lap, which is, you know, in racing circuit terms, that's getting to be a pretty big lap. So these long straights are going to be pretty long, and what we see at the start here is a very technical start, different kind of technical to the end of the lap, and that's going to be a challenge for these drivers to really set their car up. Although I do note that these guys use a supplied fixed set, but I guess the point to make would be that usually a Gen 3 supercar that's fantastic in long radius corners is going to be less fantastic in tight twisty stuff. So no doubt, I haven't spent enough time looking at these drivers and how they're going to know, but what I would suggest, Jared, is that these cars are going to be better in some parts of this lap than in others.
Yeah, I suspect so. As Steve Varga, you can see Matt Van der Kraan not too far behind in his qualifying effort. Every sector that Varga's setting purple, Van der Kraan is very quickly stealing away and going purple, so I'm not going to be surprised at all to see Matt up on the front of the grid here tonight. But let's see what Varga can do with this last corner, and it's a very, very awkward one coming off that long right-hander. But foot to the floor, that is a lap of Snetterton, and Vargas will be off again, I am sure, to do another lap and see what he can pull in there. Do wait for the time to come through. 152.496 for Varga. Immediately a 151.287 from Van der Kraan, so Varga's going to have some work to do as he makes his way back around again. James Hardy now out on track as well. We're watching the 666 entry from Quantum Racing, and the rest of these times starting to roll through. Jim Caperonis, a decent time to start as well, into the 52s, and Spriggs up into the 151s as well. So Dean Logsdale not far off the back there of Vanderkrant. Vanderkrant into the pit lane. He's set his time and he's happy with that one. And I think you'd have to be, wouldn't you? A low 151 amongst this sort of company is pretty bloody quick here at Snetterton.
Yeah, these guys only get 2 laps, so there's no opportunity for Matt to come back out on track. But obviously, he's happy with what he's done, and he knows that there is nothing more that he can do. And sometimes when there's nothing more that you can do, there's nothing more, Jared. And, the easiest thing is simply to pull up in the pits and see how your time stacks up. Given that he was more than half a second, or just on half a second faster than the next car on his first lap, I can appreciate why Matt has pulled up straight away.
Yeah, absolutely. Watching right now, we have Joseph Granshaw, the iDrive Sim Racing entry, on his way around to try and set a time. Looks like he had his first lap disqualified due to an off-track or something similar, I would think. As we get a little bit of swapping back and forth, these drivers are right next to each other. Although it is solo qualifying, they are battling it out, virtually at least. Stephen Tonkin, the other driver you're seeing there, and Daniel Sheriffs as well, a decent time into the top 10. Gary Buckland really does have these cars dialed in, I've got to say. He's up in P5 with that qualifying effort, looking to better it now, so keep an eye out for his next time coming through. But yeah, all of these drivers, big moment there. For Tonkin, he's off the track, so that's not going to help his standing on that lap. And probably a bit more of a spread of times here tonight at Snetterton than we're used to seeing from this group of drivers.
There is a bit of a spread, but I think that comes with the technical nature of this track, Jared. There's so many corners where you can just lose a little bit of time, and of course, like we've touched on a couple of times already, well over a 5 kilometre lap simply lends itself to bigger gaps. The longer the lap takes to complete, the bigger the gaps naturally are going to be. What I can confirm though is Tonkin was on his in lap when he had that off track moment, so that's not going to hinder him at all. But at the moment, Vanderkrant and Logsdale still at the top. Logsdale unable to go faster on his second lap. Spriggs is done, Thomas is done, Schroeder's done, Jamie McKnight's done. So many of these guys are done, and if I just quickly scroll down the list, from what I can see, Jared, actually no more cars left on their second lap. So
Scott Perrins has just come around on his second, and by the look of things, has finished up with 18th there, so probably not the pace he was hoping for, as we see him coming across and heading back to the pits. But yeah, look, I was expecting perhaps some closer times here tonight. I think Snetterton is one that's a little bit foreign to a lot of drivers, and I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever actually even looked at Snetterton on iRacing before this season, so it might be a bit of a challenge for some of these drivers if they're not familiar with it, because it is, as you say, it's not the smoothest of tracks. It's a little bumpy through some of these corners, and as we know, these Gen3s, they don't mind the bumps of the curbs for some reason, but you put a few bumps mid-corner and it has a real tendency to unsettle them, particularly when you're under power and trying to get away.
I think one of the big things, Jared, is normally when we're hitting curbs in these Gen 3 cars, we're not hard on the power, and so they'll fly over those curbs and settle down a bit quickly. But often in the middle of a corner, we are under hard acceleration, particularly on corner exit, and it just becomes so easy that to feed wheel spin into these cars. And once they have started to wheel spin, that's kind of it. It's all over and very, very hard to recover. But I think that whilst the spread is a little bit here, Jared, I think that you'll quickly see people come to grips with racing this track tonight, and that we will. I think that this track is going to be conducive to some really good quality racing, if I'm honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Anywhere you've got some tight, slow hairpins, it really just opens up opportunities for passing, and that's something that you always want to look for with the Gen 3s. Finding those opportunities to pass are often very difficult in these cars. So It's certainly something we will keep an eye on this evening as we wait for the last of the drivers to finish up on track. Now with Scott Rankin just making his way around and Todd Martin out there as well right now. Just a few seconds left in this qualifying session. We will have the grid here ready to bring to you. And while we wait on that, a quick look here at what's to come. Let me share something just a little special with you all. We'll be right back. Just a little teaser. We'll have a chat about that Endurance Championship a little later on. But right now, let's talk the grid for this evening's race. Matt Vanderkraan out in front alongside Dean Logsdale. So these two will be battling it out right from the green flag. Jason Spriggs and Jeff Thomas on the second row. Michael Schroeder and Jamie McKnight behind them. Then Gary Buckland and James Hardy with Andrew Hoffman and Daniel Sheriffs rounding out the top 10. Damon Fisher and Stephen Varga just behind them on track, ahead of Peter Sattler and Jim Caperonis, and Rick Viggar and Matthew Stoyles behind them. 17th and 18th to Tonkin and Perrins respectively. Then Darren Walden and Joseph Granshaw, Michael Hayes and Troy Sipple, with Rob Baxter and Philip Marsh behind them on the 12th row. Anita Buckland and John Van Ree line up alongside each other ahead of Craig Rose and Michael Stewart. Scott Rankin, Todd Martin, Lucas Burt and Dylan Sipple all failing to set qualifying times, and so we'll be starting from the back. Tim Nicol and Nathan Allen, your safety car drivers for this evening. And Josh, I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to seeing what Scott Rankin can do from the back of the grid here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. A car charging through from the very back of the grid is probably one of the most exciting things in a supercar. And you talked a little bit about the fact that there's those good opportunities to pass here, and I think what really drives that is corners where you can have a different runoff. So you really need to take advantage of the corner before into a good braking zone, and there's certainly a number of those here where whether they be long corners where the car's loaded, or even hairpins that you might be able to slightly change your line and get a drive off. Someone charging through from the back is going to be very exciting to watch, and I'm keen to see what he can do.
Absolutely. We're waiting on the last of the drivers to grid up, just about 30 or 40 more seconds before we are in race control's hands, and he's hoping. I know it might be in vain at this point, but he's hoping for a clean couple of first laps. I don't really want to see the safety car out early tonight if we can avoid it. That'd be nice this evening, because it is a very, very long lap under safety car conditions tonight. So these drivers hopefully thinking about these 12 laps ahead and just driving nice and cleanly, but knowing the crew that we've got here tonight, I suspect it will be all noise right off the line.
Red mist is a real thing, Jared.
Oh, it absolutely is. We're just about to finish up with gridding, so we'll go down to the track and let's see what we've got in store as we wait for starters' orders to come into play here.
I do have a little bit of cheeky news. Unfortunately, Lucas Burt has had to retire from the night for a few different reasons.
So Lucas Burt out. We are about to go racing though. The lights come up. And we are away. Green flag, green lights all around the track, and a very, very good start off the bat from our Vanderkraan. Straight away we've got trouble. That is Rick Viggar that's gone around. And we have cars turned. We've got a massive pile up. Huge pile up off the front of that. So that's Rob Baxter caught in amongst it. And that looks like... And immediately we have a safety car on track. So a nasty start at all. That's Scott Perrins that's been caught up in that. Rob Baxter as well. We're just seeing getting underway. And huge issues there right off the bat. as we look to the front. Matt Vanderkraan just slowing them all down at the moment. Let's go back and see if we can catch what on earth set that all up. Let's take a look back. So it looks like it might have been Rick Vigar who was the first one to go around. Watch his start here. As you see, he turns and then into Tonkin, and unfortunately gets spun around. Ends up with car 156. That's Scott Rankin. Nowhere to go really, just the wall in front of him. So those guys stuck. And let's have a look at what happens to Scott Perrins, because he caught the worst of that there, Josh Harris.
Yeah, he did. I was just going to ask you to have a bit of a squeeze a bit further up. What that looks to me like is, as cars have checked up, we've ended up with another bit of an incident, and unfortunately for Scotty Perrins, he has turned hard right back into the middle of the track, and with a track like that and completely blocked and so many cars involved, it's no wonder that safety car's called. You made the call just before the race start, Jared, that this is an incredibly long lap under safety car, so hopefully they can get this tidied up with just one lap under safety car and we can get back racing nice and quick. But just so many cars involved, and when these cars start to slow and slide in front of you, Jared, things happen so quickly, and unfortunately it is far too easy for incidents of that size to unfold. And if we think all the way back to round one, race one, our very first race of this season, we saw a very similar thing at Watkins Glen, and we've now seen that tonight. But to be fair to these guys, our race starts have been fantastic for a long time, so it's unfortunate to see something like that happen, but it's just the perils of standing starts. I for one am very glad to see this series utilising standing starts and staying true to supercars, even though they do have some inherent risks.
Absolutely, and you saw from just that sequence of replays we were going through there, just the carnage. It's hard to understand without looking back at it just how it all happened. But you saw Steve Tonkin get fired off there by that contact with Rick Vigar, and then as Troy Sipple tried to avoid him, it's like he was a yellow-seeking missile of some sort. Basically, just went straight for Tonkin off in the grass, and then of course you saw Rob Baxter coming together with Perrins in the main part of the straight. You saw Vigar facing backwards with Scott Rankin as well. So just carnage everywhere. Quite a number of drivers impacted in that mess. So certainly Troy Sipple, Rob Baxter, I think Joseph Branshaw got caught up in it as well. Steve Tonkin, Rick Vigar, all of those guys find themselves right down the back of the field, and a bit of work to do. And we're just getting word from safety car. They're coming in this lap as well, I believe. So only a fairly short safety car period, which is good because it's a very, very long lap.
Yeah, it's one of the joys of a manual safety car in iRacing, Jared, is these guys are entirely in control of when the safety car's on track and when it's not. So it's nice to see them be able to get this out of the way quickly, and of course the one advantage of a long lap, Jared, is that the number of laps spent behind the safety car is limited, and given that we are racing to a lap count and not a time, I guess that makes things nice. So we'll see these guys. We can see the last of the cars now catching up to the back of the train, so no doubt everyone's ducked in and used their fast repair that's available, patched up their cars. We've got everyone back together, and what we'll likely see now is some fantastic racing, hopefully for the rest of this race without any further interruptions.
Fingers crossed, mate. There's a long way to go yet. This is only going to be lap 2 effectively they're coming around on, so certainly quite a bit yet to go in this race. And we're with Matt Vanderkraan. The safety car is back in, so we're just in control of Vanderkraan right now, and we'll see what he does here. He doesn't mind a bit of a jump if he can get it, but that last left-hander, it's going to be interesting to see what he does with this one. So keep an eye on it as he comes up towards that corner. At the moment, keeping it nice and slow. As he rounds the final bend, still holding.
Going nice and early, but he has decided to hold the grid, and we'll wait and see exactly when he wants to go. But becoming some reasonably standard tactics of Matt van der Kraan is to wait a while and really bank that field up. We've seen he's gone now and he has immediately got the jump. He's got over half a second before he reaches the control line. So he has nailed that jump and unfortunately for Dean Logsdale in second, he hasn't quite been ready and he's missed that initial jump.
Yeah, and you can see it's spaced the field out a little bit as the accordion effect starts to rip through the field in the background. Scott Rankin, you see there making a move up the inside, trying to gather a few places back after that early carnage. And keep your eye on the background because we've got cars going too wide through that hairpin through Montreal, which is always going to be tricky. Low speed, but high risk. A lot of debris on the track. You can see that already as we take a look at Jeff Thomas sitting in fourth at the moment, just off the back of Jason Spriggs, and certainly Jeff Thomas has got some pace. We'll see if he can translate that to points tonight. Van der Kraan, though, out in front, maintaining his half-second gap for the moment. This is lap 3. We've still got a long way to go here at Snetterton, and this is only the first race. So, Josh Harris, I don't know what to expect for the rest of this one.
Hard racing and lots of battles, I think, would be the way that I'd sum it up, Jared. And you know, hopefully we see some good, clean racing, and these guys able to make some moves. The thing that I've noted is that already the track is starting, or sorry, the field is starting to spread out a little bit. So nice long lap here. Definitely the opportunity to break free of the car behind if you do get the opportunity to, and get your head down and get racing.
Absolutely, as we keep our eye here on Thomas. And he's starting to open up a bit of a gap behind him. We see that Schroeder's just struggling a little at the moment to keep his car on track. We've seen him run wide on a few of these corner exits, and he's almost holding the rest of the field up, which is allowing his front four to open up a gap of almost 1.5 seconds at this point. Van der Kraan setting the fastest lap, immediately taken by Logsdale right behind him. So these guys into the high 52s. Still a fair way off qualifying pace though. His tyres yet to get up to temp after that early safety car.
Yeah, and I would say that Schroeder there, with those issues that he's having, is just really trying to nurse his car and get everything up to temp nice and slowly, because you do run the risk in a supercar if you do go too aggressive too quick that you can very quickly overheat some tyres and really start to struggle. But it's good to see these first 4 cars making that little break, and hopefully we can see Thomas, Spriggs and Logsdale all start to bunch up. As you called out, Logsdale immediately grabbed the fastest lap time, not by very much, but he is lapping at the same pace as Matty van der Kraan at the moment. So hopefully he can make a battle of that. We have dropped all the way down to be having a look at the guys or the battle for 20th, and really fantastic little group starting to form up here. And we have commented time and time again, Jared, that in this series it doesn't matter whether you are in first, 20th or 30th, you will be racing to the end, and I think it's fantastic to see.
Absolutely, and we're keeping an eye on these guys down the back because, of course, these are some of the drivers that were caught up in that early carnage. Race control just advising a drive-through for Rick Vigar. Not surprising off the start there, and so he'll be coming in for a drive-through. Probably not the start tonight that he was hoping for. Let's take a bit of a look further up, and you can see that Jeff Thomas now has Gary Buckland all over the back of him. And Buckland, yes, he certainly managed to avoid the early carnage for a start, which is not a bad way to go, but he's got some pace here again tonight at Snetterton, so keep your eye on him. If he can hold it together this evening, then I'm expecting that this is going to be a pretty exciting little battle between himself and Thomas. Big shout out to all of those joining us in the chat this evening. Now that we've kind of got a moment to breathe and take a bit of a look at what's going on after reviewing all of that first lap action. Simon Haynes in the chat with us tonight, and Dave Baldock as well. Shane P and Luke Orman, good to see you along this evening, and Tim Lawson here as well. So plenty of our regulars dropping in. Always a pleasure to see you there. Simon Haynes getting a ban from Discord. I don't know if I even want to know how you've managed that, Simon, because I know I've certainly never received a ban on Discord, and I've challenged those limits a bit, I reckon.
Look, I'm not going to go into it, but I want to say from the bottom of my heart that is one of the most impressive things that I've ever seen. So well done to Simon Haynes. I don't know how he's done it, but what an amazing effort. But it is good to see so many people hanging out with us in the chat. We do love to see all of your comments, and I know that from a driver's perspective, when these guys get a chance to watch this race back, that they love seeing all the support out there as well. So it is fantastic to see, and we look forward to a fantastic night of racing with you. Well, speaking of fantastic racing, we have a look up at the battle for fourth, and as we commented on earlier, Mr. Schroeder absolutely starting to become a little bit of a train conductor here. Jeff Thomas all over the back of him, and then Gary Buckland behind. The points you made before about Gary Buckland, Jared, I wouldn't call his season spectacular, but sitting in fifth overall for the points, sixth tonight, he has been consistent, if nothing else, and as you've commented a couple of times, he's definitely got some speed that's fantastic to see.
Absolutely, as we see Scott Rankin looking for a way past Dylan Sipple right now. Sipple taking a rather defensive central line up that main straight, and Rankin all over the back of him. Let's see what he can get done into the hairpin here. This is one of those corners that, anything where you've got to drop this much speed off a supercar, it really opens up the opportunities for passing, because it's the drive out the other side that will get you away with it. And Dylan Sipple doing a marvellous job of getting traction out of Montreal there and continuing to hold Scott Rankin off. In fact, Rankin's starting to drop away now. Michael Schroeder is under pressure. Thomas has gone through. Here comes Gary Buckland, looking up the inside, backs it out, always playing smart rather than pushing too hard. And he's got to keep an eye on Jamie McKnight now all over his tail. So Schroeder, certainly starting to feel that pressure and get some moves put through on him as well. Keep an eye here on Buckland, because he's going to have to defend from McKnight very, very soon.
And it's so easy in these situations, Jared. If you are in the lead car's position, so Michael Schroeder, it is so easy to make such a small mistake, and then from that point on, you're a sitting duck. So we see a small mistake there, and immediately Gary Buckland is looking for the pass. Now, fortunately for Michael Schroeder there, the next corner wasn't very far away, but with the speed differential that these cars have when you get a good exit out of a corner versus a bad, it certainly doesn't take very much time or much of a mistake, and you are immediately on the back foot. Gary Buckland, as we have come to expect this year, driving an incredibly mature race, he is happy to sit there and wait for that mistake to be made. I'm sure that he isn't the sort of driver that's not going to pass if the opportunity's there, but true to form, we're not seeing him make any silly moves at this point. So he's just moving the car around. He's making sure that Michael Schroeder can see him in the mirrors. Michael Schroeder is definitely not going to forget that Gary Buckland's there, that's for sure.
Absolutely. As we take a look at the relatives for Gary Buckland, he's got Schroeder just ahead of him, and then of course Jamie McKnight just behind. So he's really sandwiched in the middle there, 3/10 either direction. And he's playing a fantastic game here to hold off McKnight, who we know is fast in his own right. Keep an eye out in front though. Van der Kraan extending that lead out to a second and a half now. Van der Kraan just starting to do Van der Kraan things, and has decided that now's the time to start to put the foot down. So keep an eye on that one as we watch this battle for fourth continue. Gary Buckland and Michael Schroeder going at it. Jamie McKnight stuck in there as well, although a bit of a misstep there has opened that gap up a little bit further. Good evening to Brett Fisher joining us in the chat as well. Simon Haynes reckons it's easier than you think to get banned from Discord. That's a conversation I want to have with you later, my friend. See just what's going on there, because I don't think it is quite that simple. We've been watching this battle pack, but right behind them, the battle for Tint is raging on as well. Take a look at this pack just coming through the same set of corners, with James Hardy out in front in ninth, really, ahead of Hoffman, Sheriffs, Caperonis, Fisher and Sattler, all in amongst it, as we keep our eye on the Southern Cross Racing entry of Jim Caperonis. James Hardy, certainly a number of cars tucked in behind him as well. The other SCR entry here of Hoffman up in 10th at the moment. So plenty going on, and good evening to Wayne Sanderson joining us as well for this evening's race. Going into lap 9, and look, these battle packs still a bit to work out, but Matt Van der Kraan out in front is certainly leading the way, as we have come to expect from him if you give him just even a sniff of that clean air out in front.
Yeah, he has started to extend his lead, but one thing that I'll bring to your attention, Jared. First through to sixth, they're all in the position that they've started in, and their best times, we've got a 52.3, a 52.4, a 52.3, a 52.4, and a 52.4. These guys are all exceptionally fast, matched together exceptionally well. The fact that Van der Kraan has been able to sneak out a lead probably speaks to just how consistent he is. But fantastic to see Spriggs now moving his way back up towards Logsdale, although Logsdale has got that gap just extended slightly. So an amazing battle up the front, but as we can see here from our pictures, probably the most exciting one is currently the battle for fifth. And we see that little group has extended just a little bit. We've now got 4/10 back to Gary Buckland, another 6/10 back to Jamie McKnight. So certainly from a lap to 2 laps ago, Gary Buckland is going to be breathing a little bit easier, but there is still absolutely no room to make a mistake here. And another 4 laps. There's still 20 odd kilometres to go, Jared, of making sure that you hit every single apex and that you're not the one that makes a mistake.
Absolutely, as Todd Martin makes a huge error coming out of that corner, and Troy Sipple goes charging on through there. So huge speed differential. I'm not quite sure what on earth's happened for Martin, but it's certainly cost him. Gary Buckland's gone off track here. That's really unfortunate. He's been driving so consistently, and he's going to drop quite a way back from where he was. Thankfully, he managed to keep it pointed in the right direction, but now finds himself caught up in this battle pack behind James Hardy. So he's dropped a long way back now. These guys are starting to even catch up to the back of Schroeder, McKnight and Varga. So despite Hardy still maintaining his position out in front, as Buckland looks to make his way back up through the pack, puts the pressure on, pushes Caperonis wide, just keeps Caperonis dead straight there as well. I think Jim was about to start to over-rotate, and he's just bounced off Gary Buckland's rear left quarter, and that's kept him pointed in the right direction. And Buckland continues to move up as he chases down his teammate in Daniel Sheriffs.
Fantastic move there by Gary Buckland, obviously frustrated with himself at the mistake that he made, and a really authoritative pass, and probably a pass that looked almost as nice as that Old Mate and Sons car does. He is going to be on a mission, and we'll see what he does now. Obviously tucked in behind his teammate. If he can get up there, is he as brave in his moves against his teammate, or does a little bit more respect start to come into it?
Yeah, look, I can't imagine anyone wants to take the teammate out, so I don't know that he's going to be pushing quite that hard in the past, but likewise, I think Sheriffs will recognise pretty quickly if Buckland does have the extra pace as they make their way down the very, very long Bentley Straight and under the Snetterton Bridge as we come around to the last couple of corners on this lap. Still a few to go, and that is... who's that off to the side? That looks like it might be Scott Perrins. Already down a lap and not having a great race at all, so I suspect he'll be Craig Rose, sorry, that was by the look of things. So regardless, a long way back in the pack, not at all going well for the Quantum Racing boys this evening. Take a look further up though. Michael Schroeder has managed to pull away for a little while, but here comes Jamie McKnight. He's starting to apply the pressure and close that gap back up now that Buckland has vacated the space in between them. And now just the two of them here to battle it out. But keep your eye on Stephen Varga in the background. He's just hanging in there and looking for an opportunity perhaps to make something of it if these two do come together. A couple laps left to go. The spacing out in front really starting to extend. You can see off into the distance. You've got Van der Kraan fairly comfortably out in front of Logsdale. Spriggs, Thomas not far behind. And then, of course, Michael Schroeder and Jamie McKnight here that we're watching in the battle for fifth, as Stephen Varga sneaks into that battle box as he closes the gap to Schroeder. And still a few paps going on through the field, but starting to spread out a little bit here. I think these guys just settling into their position as we approach the end of race one. You don't really want to push too hard just for the sake of that one extra position here, do you, Josh?
No, you don't, but every position counts, and I think that Jamie McKnight will have spent a couple of laps behind Gary Buckland and taking note of where Gary was not able to do the pass, and potentially a fresh set of eyes on the back of Schroeder's car and understanding where his strengths and weaknesses differ, and maybe the opportunity to put a pass on somewhere different. You see there, Schroeder has, whether that was a mistake or just a very different line, but there was certainly a huge difference in corner exit speed, and Schroeder once again saved by how close the next corner is. But Jamie McKnight is really reining up on the back, and as you said just before, Jared, lots of space between cars. There is only a couple of battle packs, with this being one of the absolute best. What I can tell you, for the second lap in a row, Dean Logsdale has pulled a few tenths out of Matt van der Kraan. So it looks to me like Matt van der Kraan's just backed it off a little bit, and he's going to coast his way home here with only 2 laps to go. But the same would not be said for Schroeder, McKnight or Varga, as neither for these guys that we're looking at in that battle for 9th. But still plenty of people in this field that are racing absolutely as hard as they possibly can.
Yeah, no sooner do we start talking about them spacing out than this group seems to come back together again. So Sheriffs and Buckland not far off the back of Hoffman, and right behind them you've got Capronis, Fisher and Sattler all going at it as well. In fact, Peter Sattler has had Damon Fisher on the defensive here. Through a number of corners, Fisher's had to take that inside line to stop Sattler thinking about the dive. And so far, he's managing to keep it all together. As we take a look further up, is Michael Schroeder, Jamie McKnight getting the pass done. He's on the inside. Can he hold it through this turn? As we go on to Bentley Straight once again, McKnight's on the wrong side for the next turn though, so that's going to be the opportunity for Schroeder. But unfortunately, just doesn't have the pace out of the corner. Has to tuck in behind. Is he going to go for a dive here and try and get him under brakes? McKnight closing the door on him.
Jared.
No, it's really not. You've got to commit very, very early, and there's just not enough braking to make up the difference. So McKnight finally gets that pass done on Schroeder, and now Stephen Varga's having a think about whether or not he might be able to pick up a spot here as well. Lap 11,
I think,
Matt van der Kraan. Sorry, go.
I was just going to say that with Varga up 5 positions already and approaching their last lap, I would be surprised to see him do anything crazy, but still a good opportunity for him to get another spot. Scott Rankin, you asked or you commented on at the start of the race, Jared. As we do see the 2 teammates side by side heading into turn 1, so we'll see whether Buckland can get it done. A bit of contact there. Hopefully that is reasonably friendly fire. We do see the 2 cars come out side by side, and Gary Buckland on the inside and able to execute that pass straight away. So a little bit of hip and shoulder on the way through, but the teammates able to get that one done without any further issues. But as we do come back to Scott Rankin, Scotty Rankin has made up 13.
Big lock-up. Have a look at this, getting sandwiched by Sippel and Martin there. These guys are going 3 wide. This is not advisable, kids. Tonkin comes out in front, Sippel and Martin tuck in behind. That was a bit rough there for a moment.
It was. I'll use my favourite word, Jared. I think that what we would call that is an opportunistic pass. That was a pass that kind of presented itself and had to be taken. But how exciting to see lap 12, our last lap of the race, and people still willing to absolutely throw a car down the inside and risk a little bit of damage to grab just one more position.
Just one more. It is the catch cry of the racing driver, isn't it? Just one more position, just one more metre of braking. It's what finds us in trouble so much of the time. But you can see these guys still fighting it out to the bitter end. Matt van der Kraan, though, about to come across the line for the win ahead of Dean Logsdale. A fantastic first race for him. Logsdale coming through in second, and then Jason Spriggs behind will pick up third. Jeff Thomas behind him. As we go to Jay McKnight, Michael Schroeder and Stephen Varga all crossing the line together. Gary Buckland unfortunately couldn't improve his position any further from where he was, but look, a real packed finish there from Sheriffs, Capronis, Fisher and Sattler, all of them finishing in within just a few tenths of each other as we look down the line. But Van der Kraan with the win in race 1 sets him up very, very nicely for race number 2 and the longer distance of 28 laps ahead of us as we see, who's that in the background? One of the Quantum guys just enjoying the last of his tyres. Looks like it might have been Dylan Sippel having a bit of fun.
And can I just say that if it was Dylan Sippel, absolutely had reason to celebrate, up 17 positions in that race, the most of anyone. No doubt helped a little bit by that lap 1 kerfuffle, but still a fantastic race for Dylan Sippel. And if you can go 17 forward in that race, let's wait and see what he can do with more than twice the amount of time on track in race 2.
Absolutely. As we wait for the last of those results to come through, we're just waiting currently on race control giving us the final positions. I think we're just waiting on Craig Rose, actually, who's just coming across the line now. So a long way back, unfortunately, for Craig. But our results are in, and look, it's not looking too bad at all for Matt Van der Kraan. A reasonably comfortable win in race 1 there over Dean Logsdale, a second and a half in the end. Jason Spriggs in third, Jeff Thomas in fourth ahead of Jamie McKnight getting it done in fifth. Michael Schroeder manages to hold Stephen Varga at bay, picking up sixth to Varga's seventh, and James Hardy ahead of Andrew Hoffman. And then the lineup of Gary Buckland, Daniel Sheriffs, Jim Caperonis, Damon Fisher, Peter Sattler, Matthew Stoyles, all reasonably close together there through the top 15. Scott Rankin a little further back ahead of Dylan Sippel, who, as you said, was up 17 positions, a huge drive from him. Michael Hayes getting in 18th there as well, as we take a look at the next set of results coming back from Michael Hayes in 18th, Steve Tonkin and Troy Sippel rounding out the top 20, then Todd Martin and Darren Walden, Joseph Granshaw and Rob Baxter ahead of Philip Marsh and John Van Reed, then Rick Vigard, unfortunately a long way back tonight, Anita Buckland in 28th ahead of Craig Rose in 29th. Scott Perrins and Michael Stewart also not having a great race, but someone who has had a fantastic race there tonight, Matt Van der Kraan, welcome back to the booth and congratulations on your win in race 1.
Thanks, boys. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting track, Snetterton. Tell us about your experience out there first of all. How much time have you spent on this track prior to tonight, and what are you finding most difficult to get to grips with?
I'd never been here before this week, but I'd done a few laps since Friday, so yeah, coming to grips with it. There's a few places where the front just wants to wash out, particularly the last corner. So if you can just prevent that front wash out, get the bite in the corner, and get some drive out, all good.
It really looked to me, Matt, like you were cruising towards the back end there. I noted that the guys behind you were often doing lap times faster. Was that a case of that relative inexperience at this track, or did you just have a lap time that you wanted to hit and managing that gap and making sure that you coasted home?
Yeah, pretty much about managing the gap. I probably could have pushed harder. I didn't want to. But yeah, just didn't want any surprises. This car can kick out on you in a heartbeat. And I had a little moment coming out under the last corner with 3 or 4 laps to go. And I was just making sure that didn't happen again.
That's a good strategy. Tell me, for the first time this year, I think, we're limiting fuel tank tonight. So minimum 2 compulsory pit stops for the next race, but the added strategy twist of only being able to fill a tank to 60%. Now, I haven't done the math, but I think that you're definitely going to need fuel at the 2 stops. Have you got your strategy locked in, or are we going to wing it based on safety cars?
Yeah, let's wing it, eh? Let's wing it and see what happens. I might have a quick lap, see how many laps I can get out of a tank. I can get 20 and a half laps out of a tank, so I'm going to say 20 laps. You can make it home still from a long way to go.
There you go. Should be an interesting watch for sure. Matt Van der Kraan, congrats again on the win tonight in race 1. We'll keep an eye on this strategy and see how it unfolds for race 2, but we'll let you get back into it and get your strategy sorted out, hey?
Cheers, boys. Have a good call.
Matt Van der Kraan there, your winner for race 1. Now, Josh Harris, we've got a couple of minutes before the drivers start to grid up. Let's talk for just a moment about the upcoming Endurance Series. You saw the teaser trailer earlier. Let's talk a little bit about what it looks like. So, 3 races throughout the rest of this year. It opens on March 23rd with the Phillip Island 600 kicking off on that Sunday afternoon. Then June 15th, we head to Sandown for the Sandown 500. And then September 21st, we finish off with a Bathurst 1000, which I think has got to be the pinnacle for supercars, doesn't it?
Absolutely, it's got to be the pinnacle, and what better racing to do than two-person enduro racing, really harking back to our real-world counterparts, and probably three of the most iconic tracks when it comes to endurance racing. There's no doubt Phillip Island has hosted its fair share of 500s at times when Sandown hasn't had it. So Phillip Island 600 is going to be an amazing race, one of the premier racing circuits in all of the world. What a fantastic way to kick it off. It is a very challenging circuit in a supercar. It's challenging for more reasons than just its layout, the way that it chews tyres, and the potential for mistakes. That is going to be a real test of both man and machine. And then, moving into our traditional Australian enduros in Sandown and Bathurst. What an exciting prospect that these guys have put together, and a really fantastic opportunity for some people to come along and race with the ASR guys. I'm not sure what the plan is. I've been keeping an eye on the Discord, Jared. I'm very keen to see whether we see some super teams come out of ASR with current teammates that pair up together, or are they all going to go and look for new super sub drivers and race against each other?
That is the question, and it will be open to drivers outside of this championship as well. Worth calling out. Simon Haynes saying that we might need a new Discord invite, but look, I'll chase that up. We do have a Discord invite in the chat and also in the YouTube description down below, but if that one's not working, give the guys a shout, alliancesimracing@gmail.com if you're interested in getting involved. Let's take a look at the grid for race number 2 here. Matt Vanderkraan will be starting from pole alongside Dean Logsdale again, then Jason Spriggs and Jeff Thomas behind him. Then we've got Jay McKnight and Michael Schroeder, Stephen Varga and James Hardy, then Andrew Hoffman and Gary Buckland. I had to check myself there because that front 4 or 5 exactly the same as the first race. I thought for a moment we had an issue with our grid, but Daniel Sheriffs and Jim Caparonis just missing out on the top 10. Then Damon Fisher and Peter Sattler ahead of Matthew Stoyles and Scott Rankin, Dylan Sipple and Michael Hayes, then Steve Tonkin and Troy Sipple rounding out the 20. Then we look to Todd Martin and Darren Walden ahead of Joseph Granshaw and Rob Baxter. Further back in the pack, Philip Marsh and John Van Ree ahead of Rick Vigor and Anita Buckland, Craig Rose and Scott Perrins, and Michael Stewart will be the last car on the grid with Lucas Burt unable to join for this race. Of course, Tim Nicol and Nathan Allen hopefully getting a bit of a break in this race if we're lucky.
Look, I don't know, a late safety car after everyone's done their 2 CPS, maybe 10 laps to go from home, just to really spice things up. May not be exactly what the doctor ordered, Jared, but I certainly think that it might be up there.
Mate, it's that's cruel, honestly, to wish that on these guys. But yeah, it'll be one way to compress the pack, that's for sure.
Look, thankfully, Jared, tonight I'm here in the commentary booth watching and not out there racing, so I'm able to wish for all of the things in the world and not feel guilty about it. It's who I am. What I want to see is close finishes and however we manufacture them, I'm not really all that concerned about.
So drivers, please be aware if you do see, random bits of debris being thrown onto track, that could just be Josh Harris coming down from the booth to invoke a safety car, is what I'm hearing there.
Would never do it. There will not be any debris tonight, Jared. That's not my style.
Waiting on just the last couple of drivers, about 30 seconds before we hand it over to race control. The endurance season, though, absolutely looking forward to that. And, of course, that will be broadcast here by Simple Racing Broadcasts right here on the Alliance Sim Racing channel. So do make sure, if you're not already subscribed, hit that button down below because I'd hate for you to miss out on all the action. We are putting together a crack commentary team, mostly so that it doesn't have to be just my voice that you're listening to for 4 to 7 hours on a Sunday afternoon.
I've got to say, there probably wouldn't be much voice left, and props to the real world guys who do commentate the entire Bathurst 1000, because I love being here, Jared. I'm thoroughly enjoying this challenge, but I will not be doing an entire Bathurst 1000, I'm here to tell you.
We'll see. We get ready to go. The lights have come up. We are under green conditions once again, and the start this time hopefully a little more settled than we saw in race one. There were already drivers looking for passing opportunities off the line. Everyone's starting to get settled though as we make our way down to turn one. We are too wide through most of it, but certainly, as I've spoken too soon, we've got one car that's gone a little sideways but managed to get back on track. It looks like that might have been... Who was that that's gone sideways there? One of the Quantum Racing entries, or might have been Rob Baxter even, who's found himself right on the outside. So far so good up front though. Jason Spriggs, keep an eye on him. He's certainly looking to get a move done early as we take a look a bit further ahead. Jeff Thomas right on his tail as well. Dean Logsdale, Matt Vanderkrant though retaining the top spot. Daniel Sheriff further back is off into the grass, so he's going to have to rejoin. Thankfully hasn't taken anyone else with him, but that's going to cost him a lot of spots here in this early stage of this race as we get underway, and these guys finding themselves 2 or 3 wide as we come into Hamilton. It's a Grantshaw, big contact there from Vigar with Daniel Sheriffs as well as they go side by side. And
Daniel Sheriff's trying. As I didn't catch who that was, but someone has had a moment on. That's a very typical V8 supercar cold tyre moment. Just trying to lean a little bit too hard on those tyres, particularly on corner exit. As another couple of cars come together.
Stoyles and Vigar have come together there as well.
It'll be interesting to see, Jared, how many of these incidents that we've just caught the back end of are caused by other cars, and how many are just guys really trying to take advantage of the first lap opportunities, and maybe just asking a little bit too much of their tyres. Used to the nice grip levels that they had at the back end of race one, and not really all that prepared for the low grip levels that these cold tyres and cold brakes present.
It is a really big ask for these cars, as we see a couple of battle packs starting to really form up already. This one here, it's a little hard to catch on these cameras, but we'll start to show you a bit more as we make our way around. But the battle for 16th now, and Michael Hayes from Nova Sim Sports is out in front, but he has got a lineup of cars behind him right now. 2 Quantum entries, 1 Angry Birds. You've got a few other teams in there as well. And Hayes at the moment just managing to hold them at bay. You can see further up though, the pack from second back still very, very close together. Let's take a moment and take a look back at a couple of those issues. Matthew Stoyles, the first one that we'll go back and take a quick look at. And see just what's happened here. That's contact there with James Hardy that's put him off to the side early on. So that was perhaps the first of them we saw. Big moment there as that was Rick Vigar coming through. So Matthew Stoyles sitting waiting for an opportunity to rejoin, and Vigar's just slid across the track. So we actually missed the start of that. We caught the end of it earlier, but that's caused some dramas for both of those drivers. A little bit of damage there for Stoyles that he's going to have to go and look at getting repaired.
Yeah, heartbreaking for Stoyles, to be honest. Having been parked up there, with a move that clearly wasn't on, being tagged so far back in the rear, and then to get another car come sliding through and hit you, that's a bitter pill to swallow. But no doubt he will. It's a very long race, 26 laps still to go. Plenty of opportunity to get yourself out of sequence and just put in some laps in clean air and try and drive back through the pack.
Absolutely. Let's go back up to the front of the pack and check out the front end. Matt Vanderkrant, he is here to put some lap times down, a 1:51.99 on that last lap. So he is making his intentions known here. He wants to open up this gap to second even further and really leave Dean Logsdale behind. So keep an eye on that interval from Vanderkrant back to Logsdale, because he's looking to extend, and Logsdale's looking to go with him as Spriggs, now dragging a train behind him of Thomas McKnight, Varga and Schroeder, needs to respond to stay in touch with the front two.
Yeah, he does, but it's something that I think that he can do. It's all about trying to not pay too much attention to the guys behind you, and get out of that mindset of driving into mirrors and really start to put those laps in. But exciting to see this many cars together at the start of the race, and really now required to clear the mind and work with the cars around you, because huge opportunity at this time of the race to get into big battles and really fight with people. and just let other cars either catch you or drive away from you. So I wouldn't be surprised, Jared, if we just see things settle down for a while here and watch people use some tactics and start to play themselves into the back end of this race.
Yeah, you can only hope at this stage as we watch them coming through lap 3 of 28. It's been an eventful start to this race, but thankfully no safety car at this stage, touch wood. I really hope I haven't just dropped that usual curse on some of these drivers. But a few packs just starting to separate themselves out here. Spriggs now really pulling this group along, although McKnight's starting to fall away a little off the back of Thomas. So keep an eye on this though, because Thomas is looking to put the move on Spriggs right now, and is very, very close behind. Let's go to the relatives, and you can see that Thomas just a couple of tenths off the back. A bit of contact there through the hairpin, and yeah, we're absolutely seeing some very, very quick lap times coming through. Lots of 52s in that last section, so people taking full advantage of those early tyres. We do know they like to fall away pretty quickly in these Gen 3s, so everyone trying to put in the best laps that they can at this point to open up those gaps and just try and establish a bit of breathing room as we try to settle into this first stint for all of these drivers.
We definitely are, and I think that we're seeing Matt Vanderkraan out the front just put that expertise that he has in managing a race to good effect, doing on almost identical time to Dean Logsdale, and I think that he'll be employing a similar strategy. And if we look at the lap times that they're doing, I think that Dean will be in a similar position. They're certainly not going slow, but I don't think that we're seeing the absolute pace out of the front two cars that they could show if they wanted to.
Look, I mean, yeah, there's we see that
Logsdale's off.
Logsdale's, when's that happened? Just
that was
a brief moment. There we go. We'll go back and take a look at that. What's happened? Oh, he's just given it too much and hasn't been able to pull it up in time for that corner, so that's why he's dropped down. I tell you what, you have a real moment when a driver in a pack like that just disappears from the list because you're expecting him to stay amongst it. All of a sudden, Jason Spriggs finds himself up into second, but look at that gap now up to Matt Vanderkraan.
It's a big gap, and I would expect that at this point Vanderkraan's breathing a sigh of relief. And to be honest, if Spriggs and Thomas in particular just get their head down and get going, I think that there's a golden opportunity here to reel some of that gap in while Vanderkraan's really focused on conserving his tyres and playing a consistent game. We see it from Matt time and time again. And I think there's a good opportunity now to move forward. But like I spoke about just a couple of laps ago, Jared, there is definitely the opportunity now as well for these guys to fight and for Matt Vanderkraan to simply disappear off into the distance.
Yeah, they've got to be careful they don't get caught up in this, particularly without that real connection that Logsdale was providing between Vanderkraan and Spriggs. With Logsdale running off, all of a sudden Spriggs, it's going to be a lot harder for him to focus up the road. He's going to be watching those mirrors a lot more closely than he was. You see him get very, very loose there on the exit of the turn. But now 3.2 ahead to Vanderkraan. And you can see, geez, poor Stoyle's so far behind that he's actually appearing at the top of our battle box right now. So we will make sure. Let's take a quick look here and just remove him from that list because I don't think we need to see at this point where Stoyles is sitting, unfortunately. Michael Stewart currently out of this one as well, so didn't make the grid by the look of things.
So it's a shame we didn't see what happened there.
No, it doesn't look like he's actually even completed any laps either, so I don't know if he made the grid or not there, but the racing continues all the same. A little further back, Hoffman and Sadler. I'm pretty sure we saw these two going at it in race 1, didn't we?
It does sound familiar. We definitely saw an Angry Bird car around Hoffman, but a really good little race brewing up here, and importantly for Sattler, no one close behind him, so he can really focus on the car in front and try and put some moves on. But it's a challenge here. We've seen plenty of cars tonight, Jared, that are eager to make a move, and far less of them that are able to get that pass done.
Yeah, it's a very different story. Gary Buckland, a drive-through penalty just issued by race control, so they'll be looking back at some of those early events, I am sure, and another one coming through as well, with race control just sending that through penalty for car 9 with the incident with car 6. So that is Gary Buckland getting the black flag there, and I believe James Hardy copying a black flag as well. We're just waiting on confirmation from race control on that one. So yeah, there we go. Penalty for car 6 for that incident that he had earlier with car number 73, which was Matthew Stoyles. Keep an eye on the battle here. Michael Hayes is all over the back of John Van Ree as they make their way around the track. A fair way back from the rest of the pack, I've got to say, but the battle for 21st just as intense as further up the field, as we keep our eye on everything going on up and down throughout this pack as best we can. Rob Baxter and Darren Walden also just ahead of these two, in amongst it, and Walden's looking for an opportunity to get past the Castrol livery of Rob Baxter as Dean Logsdale goes into the pits. So that's an early one, but could well work out, I suspect, with the way that these fuel tanks are set up tonight. I don't know how many of these drivers are thinking about that 60% limit quite as much. We heard Matt Vanderkraan talking to us earlier about 20 laps out of a full tank, but I suspect that's out of a 100% tank that you'll get 20 laps here. So it'll be interesting to see just how far these guys can go.
You may very well get 20 laps, Sharon, out of a 60% tank here. I'm just quickly doing math in my head, and I think that may be okay. So what we may be looking at is cars pitting now for fuel, and really trying to stretch that run home. Me personally, if I'm forced to stop twice, I might try and, I might think about 2 shorter stops, but it'll be very interesting to see whether someone's brave enough to come in on lap 7. Matty Vanderkraan commented that he can get 20.6 of a lap, and so it will be interesting to see whether someone's going to go on a bit of a fuel saving exercise and see what that does for them, and look to get home with 21 laps to run.
Geez, that would be a big ask though, wouldn't it? It's certainly testing your fuel-saving patience to try and get that done. Take a look at these couple of battles we've got going on, though. Rob Baxter and Darren Walden up ahead, and we're still catching the battle between Van Rees and Hayes further towards your camera now. And even further up the line, you've got Todd Martin and Daniel Sheriffs, who are locked in for 15th. So just a couple of two-way battles going on. Further up, though, Peter Sattler and Damon Fisher now find themselves coming onto the main straight with not much to separate them. Both of them moving up through the pack, up 5 and 3 respectively, as we see them starting to come through for those pit stops. So a lot of drivers electing to pit in here. Not so for Vanderkraan and Spriggs, who stay out on track, and Thomas goes with Spriggs as well. So we're going to see some very, very different strategies coming into play here. I'm interested to see how it does work out for some of these drivers.
Yeah, look, the thing that I'm interested to see here is how long does Vanderkraan stay out the front in that good nice clean track, and what does he get the benefit from? So does he think that some of these guys are going to pull an undercut on him and he's looking for fresher tyres towards the back end, or are we going to see him come diving into the pits very soon?
Speaking of pit stops, so Logsdale, after running wide there, has taken the opportunity to make his pit stop on lap 6. So has stopped for a reasonably quick one, 14 seconds in the bay, so some fresh tyres and perhaps a little bit of fuel, but certainly not a huge amount going on. Jamie McKnight now looking to make his way back up through after making his pit stop on the previous lap as well, so he's going to look to push back through right now down 17 positions from his starting position, but a long way to go and a lot of pit stops to happen ahead of him before we start to worry too much about the ups and downs here in race number 2. Lap 8 of 28, just about a third of the way through as McKnight makes his way past Anita Buckland. And the battle up front is starting to heat up a little as Spriggs looks in the rear view to see Thomas and Vargas now starting to close in on his position.
Yeah, and we see Vanderkran off in the distance. He's put a couple of, really good quality laps in. He's the only car still in the 52s. And as we see the cars behind, Spriggs doing a 54 flat, Thomas doing a 54.2 on that lap. So Vanderkran does appear to be doing it a little bit easier than the guys behind, but a really fantastic battle brewing up. And of course now we're looking all the way back down at the battle for 22nd with Anita Buckland all over the back of Phil Marsh. Anita Buckland up 5 spots, so she's having a fantastic race, and it's good to see her moving forward a little bit, and great to see that once again people the whole way through the race are challenging each other for position, as we do see Sheriffs and Martin having a crack, and unfortunately it looks like Sheriffs has made a bit of a mistake there and immediately gone wide, so that's a shame. That was turning out to be a bit of a fantastic little battle. And now we see back looking at Gary Buckland, and for the second race in a row I think that man is going to be seeing red, and he will be on a mission to move forward. I certainly would not like to be a rear tyre on that car for this race, Jared, because I think that they are going to be copping an absolute punishing.
Absolutely. Even after his drive-through, he's only down 2 spots from where he started, so it really does tell you about just how much he's pushing to get back through this field. Granted, of course, pit stops starting to come into play with that positioning, so we'll have to see how it all starts to wash out a little bit later on. Take a look at Vigor and Troy Sipple. The two lead, let's call them the 2 lead admins for the league here. A little bit of bumping and rubbing as they make their way around the track here. The battle for 22nd, and always good to see these two going head to head out on track. It doesn't happen that often that we get to see them actually line up with each other, just Jared, by nature of it.
I'll tell you, that looked like you had slipped them a little bit of cash for a new piece of promo video, the way that they ran together there. So fantastic racing, and as we see Walden join the pack, so a couple of Angry Birds guys starting to hunt together, and we'll see what they can do and if they can get up onto the back of Sipple and really make something move. Although Sipple's not helping himself by running wide there, and Vigor has done a fantastic job to move back past Sipple, immediately pushing on the back of Vigor's car and hoping to get him moved out of the way. And of course now the Caution car finding itself in an Angry Bird sandwich. Where is it going to go from here? Does Sipple have the pace to get back in front of Vigor, as we see Walden make a mistake in the last corner and run wide? So it's certainly proving this track and this race, Jared, to be very difficult to put in nice consistent laps, but what it does become is incredibly good viewing for our pleasure with these guys battling up and down the field.
Yeah, absolutely. Cannot argue from our position here in the commentary box. A great little battle going on here between a couple of your lead sponsored cars as well, with Quantum Tint Solutions and of course AA West Automotive represented on those cars, and the Angry Birds and Quantum team, of course, the reason for this whole league existing. And great to see them making the most of it and really getting some battling in there. We'll come and check back in with them in just a moment, because I want to touch base here with Jamie McKnight, who has been moving up, but Michael Schroeder's now starting to move with him. And you can see the 2 teammates there from Accelerate either side. Jason Spriggs just ahead of Jamie McKnight. Matt Vanderkran is into the pits now with Jeff Thomas hot on his heels. So let's see where he comes out. Dean Logsdale, the first of the drivers on track who has completed a pit stop. So we'll keep an eye on him as he makes his way around. Still a fair way back, though, you've got to say, from where Vanderkran will be coming out of the pits. So keep an eye on it. They come into this long right-hander now. Vanderkran's still in the pit box. A long stop, so it looks like he's fueling to the end. That's 18 seconds. He's out of his box now, and I reckon he'll be getting back out on track reasonably far ahead. There he is, already back on track at the other end of the pit lane. So a pretty decent gap. Jeff Thomas also making it out ahead of Logsdale. There he is. They're going to be side by side at turn 1. almost thought that Thomas was going to throw it all the way across to the left there. Thankfully, he hasn't. Now, on cold tyres, is he going to be able to hold off Lonsdale while they come up to temp?
As long as he hits his marks, Jared, I think that he's a good shot here. He made it through that first little danger period, which is, those first sort of one or two corners as you come out. So Jeff Thomas now will have his head down trying to hold that position, and Matt Vanderkraan with a long stop. He'll be looking to complete a very quick stop for the second one, and it's going to be interesting when those second round pit stops do eventuate to see those differing strategies really come to play. I think that the call out is Dean Lonsdale. Obviously he's been back on track now for 5 laps since his pit, but after an early spin, has obviously got the head down and on a bit of a charge.
Yeah, still hanging in amongst there, considering the number of positions that he lost before. But yeah, it's all still going on now. Michael Schroeder and Jamie McKnight here still going at it.
And they're not going to give up, Jared, I don't think. So I think that Schroeder and Jamie McKnight at this stage are a pretty good match for each other, and they're really having a crack. So it's fantastic to see.
Now, Tompkins had a big issue there as he's dropping. You've seen him, he's off to the side. Let's go and have a look and see what's happened. He's blowing the engine. He's blowing the engine, and the safety car has just been called. So that car is... Yeah, that is so under brakes.
Jared, let's look. Everyone will dive into the pits. They are allowed to complete one compulsory pit stop under the safety car. Every car will be coming into pits, and I'll be very interested to see. Some of these guys are going to need to take fuel because they stopped before that critical lap number. Others, like Matt Vanderkraan, we expect to fill to the end. Is Vanderkraan able to quickly change some tyres and get out in front of everybody? And he absolutely is by the look of that. So very lucky piece of strategy there for Vanderkraan, being just on the good side of a little bit of luck, who had only just completed his pit stop, having filled all the way to the end, and now every single car in the whole field except for Scott Rankin on exactly the same strategy. We have a 16 lap sprint to the finish from this point on, Jared.
I was thinking for a moment, geez, can he make it to the end on these tyres? But you're right, it's only 16 laps, and sure, they are long laps, but they're not particularly punishing here at Snetterton, from what I'm seeing so far. There's a lot of long straights. So yeah, Rankin's still got to make another stop. And actually, by the look of things, Daniel Sheriffs and Gary Buckland in 4th and 5th both need to make their second stop, as well as Scott Perrin's back in 11th. So it's not quite decided yet, but in fact we'll pop that up for you just on screen so you can get a feel for it. So there's the count of stops so far. Still a few drivers in there to make their second, but a lot of them have made both of their compulsory stops now, and they will be out on track to the end, and I think Vanderkraan is well situated for this.
And I've got to say, I think that for Sheriffs and Buckland, and potentially even Scott Rankin, that it may have been an ill-timed safety car that prevented them diving in, because when you're on lap 12, you're only 16 laps for the end. I just can't for the life of me think what the advantage is to staying out. So I've just got a gut feeling that was that they have unfortunately missed that pit stop, and we may even see them coming this lap and just take that medicine. But it'll be interesting to see. Simon Haynes in the chat, another Chevy go boom. I think that the only call out that I'll make there, Simon, is that most of the Fords don't make enough power to go boom, so it's probably why we don't see many of them have problems.
Mate, just when I think that we're not going to get a dig in at a Mustang without Biggles here, I do appreciate you filling the void that he's left, mate.
Look, you're very welcome. I am a proud and passionate Chev supporter, and the only thing that I'm more proud of than supporting Chev is absolutely tearing into Ford supporters. And I'll reference it once again. I take great pleasure in spending my Monday nights driving a Chev with a Ford livery all over it, just to upset as many people as I possibly can. But always here, mate. Always here to help you out and throw a few barbs the way of a Mustang team or driver.
That's what we like to hear, kind of. Don't know how much the chat loves it, but we'll keep an eye on this. So the safety car going around for another lap here, and I think a few things to be worked out in terms of positioning as we see Tonkin coming.
There could be a couple of wave rounds to take care of too, Jared.
Yeah, so Steve Tonkin, you saw just off to the bottom left of the screen there, is waiting. Let's have a look and see just what's happening here. So Tonkin is waiting at the exit of the pit as the safety car comes past. So he's going to have to tack on at the end there. There was an overlap for car 56 at the pit exit, so that is Peter Sattler, I believe. That was called out, but no factor according to race control. I'm just let's see if we can catch that one and have a look back where everybody has jumped out of the pits there. Let's take a look and see what we can see here. I'm pretty sure that might actually be a little too far back, I suspect.
Yeah, it could have just been a battle to the pit control line too, Jared. So with Sattler coming out of the pits and trying to get up to speed, and someone out on the track at full speed, we may have seen an instance where he thought that he got to the control line first, and someone came through and passed him. Then he thought that he had the right to the position, but the stewards have had a chance to look at it. They've deemed it no further action, so we're going to go racing reasonably soon, I would expect. And I think that this lap is just about a bit of tidying up. We did note, I think it was Tonkin that had to sit at the end of the pit lane. These guys do open and close the pit lane based on the positioning of the safety car train, and obviously with the train coming past, not safe for Tonkin to be released smack bang into the middle of the train. So he would have been held at the end of pit lane and just let that train come past, and then he's out there and joined in, and hopefully we go racing, very soon, and we get 15 and 14 really good, high-quality fast laps to finish off this race.
It's a real shame for Tonkin, isn't it? Because had he been just about 10 seconds quicker through the pits, he would have had an opportunity to get out in front and tack on the end of this without going down another lap. But that is unfortunately racing. It's just a matter of seconds sometimes between being on the lead lap and being stuck at that pit exit. So yeah, not his night tonight. Tonkin having a bit of a rough run of it.
Yeah, and it's one of those risks that you take when you dive into pits, and it's a reality of the difference between racing in this virtual world that we do versus the real world, where you've got numerous engineers and strategists and people working out exact pit timing and stuff. We try and be a one-man band or a one-person band, and making sure that we are driving. We are, race engineering, we're strategizing, we're often trying to do math. Most of us pretty poorly, because let's face it, we're far better at turning steering wheels than we are doing math in our head. But sometimes these are the things that happen that you think you can get in and out, and, as you said, really only called out by a couple of seconds.
It's a tough one when you're behind the wheel to try and do all of that on the fly. Absolutely. Just hearing word from race control that we're going to see some wave arounds here, so expect to see a few of those cars. Likely Craig Rose, Steve Tonkin, I suspect, being waved from the very, very end of the pack. So Craig Rose just receiving his wave around now. So we'll see him make his way up through the pack. Let's see if we can find him. Here he comes. Make his way up on the right-hand side to unlap himself, so he's going to have to go hell for leather to try and make it back around to the back, and that's a big ask even with a long lap. So you see Tonkin's actually gone back into the pits there, so maybe going for his second. I'm not quite sure as to what exactly he's doing there.
It's worth noting as well, Jared, that typically when you get a wave around, the wave around does not afford you the opportunity to get back onto the back of the chain. It puts you on the lead lap, but most racing entities, whether it be real life or league racing, the concept of a wave around is much more about releasing you onto the lead lap as it is about putting you on the back of the chain and allowing you to immediately start making passes. So I expect that we'll see rows go hell for leather, but I wouldn't at all be surprised to see the safety car in this lap and see the guys get back about racing before he's quite on the back of the chain.
Race Control have confirmed safety car is coming in this lap, so we'll be in the control of Scott Rankin. You can see there tucked right in behind that 24/7 Sim Services Mustang GT3 safety car. As always, the race control and safety car services provided by 24/7 Sim Services, just a massive help in keeping us all on track, and they do a great job week in, week out. With look, it's a thankless job. I don't envy them at all in trying to make decisions in a relatively rapid succession with some of the queries that do come through to race control in these, and they hold it together pretty well. So hats off to those guys. We'll see the safety car start to pull away here at the end of this straight, I am sure, and then we will be in Scott Rankin's hands. Look, what do you reckon? Is he going to play Matt Vanderkran's approach, really hold us to the end, or is he going early?
I don't know. If it was me, I'd be going a little bit early, trying to catch someone napping in the middle of the second to last corner. Maybe going just early enough that you've got to brake again for that last corner. The big question that I've got, Jared, is how does Matt Vanderkran approach this? So he's on brand new tyres, as are a number of cars behind him, and I don't have the info readily in hand, but Scott Rankin obviously is not on new tyres. Does Matt Vanderkran risk passing a car that in all reality is not racing him, but that also risks Jeff Thomas being all over the back of him? Or does he stay behind Scott Rankin and that risks Jeff Thomas being all over the back of him? So no matter which way he approaches it here, Matt Vanderkran's got some stuff to think about. We do see that early
Rankin's
jump
away.
from Rankin, kind of exactly what I thought, and would probably do that early jump in the middle of the corner, needing to brake just before that last one, kills himself a really nice 7/10 gap to Matt Vanderkran, but then importantly Vanderkran pulling over a second to Thomas. So a couple of people really asleep at the wheel there before the safety car restart, and of course battling immediately. I can't quite see who it is. I think it's Gary Buckland and McKnight going at it straight away, which is fantastic to see. But all in all, everyone has settled into a reasonably relaxed single file restart, and there's a bit of work to do here to get the cars up to speed and up to pressures and all those sorts of things, and resume that racing that we had just a couple of minutes ago.
And you're absolutely spot on. It is indeed Jay McKnight that made the pass around the outside of Gary Buckland there in turn one, and he is back up into fifth, effectively third on track once you account for pit stops. So a fantastic bit of movement for Jay McKnight as a result of the safety cars and the pit strategy. He'll be very, very happy with that, I'm sure. Still a long way to go, but his tyres are as fresh as anyone else's out there, and he'll be looking to challenge Vanderkran and Thomas for podium spots as this race goes on, I'm sure.
Yeah, and Jamie McKnight, it's just a name that I've talked about all night. He's been involved in everything but racing incredibly well tonight. So it will be interesting to see whether he can bridge that gap through to Thomas, and whether he can take any further steps up onto the higher echelons of the podium.
Absolutely, and we go up front. Scott Rankin now, look, up 15 spots at the moment, but still has that second pit stop to do. Matt Vanderkran is in absolute prime position. Look at that gap starting to open up back to Thomas now. Vanderkran and Rankin really stretching the legs, both of them low 52s on that lap, so 52 ones from both. Vanderkran only closing a few hundredths across that lap. So they are absolutely looking to open it up. Jeff Thomas, though, high 52. Again, for Daniel Sheriff's a high 52 there. So it'll be interesting to see as these guys get a little bit of temperature into the tyres, whether they do start to try and get into those 51s, or if they're happy at this pace at the moment, because it's certainly enough to hold Jeff Thomas at bay at this point.
I've got to be honest, Jared, this is an ideal scenario for Matt Vanderkran. He hasn't had to battle with Rankin. He knows that Rankin needs to pit again, and he's still been able to pull 6/10 on the car behind. Scotty Rankin is absolutely bolting. He is trying to get as far away from as many cars as he possibly can, and on those fantastic fresh tyres that Vanderkran's got, he's just going to cruise around behind, and as long as he's pulling gap on the guys in second and third, he is going to be so incredibly happy with this, because talk about damage limitation or risk mitigation is probably the better term, to not have to fight with anyone and still be pulling away. That I can tell you, if we ask him at the end of this race, if he does happen to finish in a position where we interview him, this is a fantastic time for him. He is loving life right now. I can nearly guarantee it.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, who's caught up in all of this though? Jay McKnight and Daniel Sheriffs leading an absolute train all the way back to P10 with Michael Schroeder at the back end of this one. And plenty of cars looking for opportunities. Jay McKnight, look at how close he is. He's got the run there, so you almost thought that Sheriffs was on his way into the pits, but just didn't get the drive out of that final corner. So Jay McKnight starts to pull away, and now he's going to be on the hunt for Thomas up ahead. But you can see those gaps really starting to open up already. Matt Vanderkran, that time around, another low 52. He's closed a few tenths more on Rankin. Jeff Thomas, though, a 52 flat or near enough, 52.08 on that lap. So don't discount Jeff Thomas from that action up front. He's absolutely looking to reel them in as well. Jay McKnight's going to have to put some effort in, a high 52 on that last lap, but now that he's got some clean air ahead of himself, he might just be able to start to pull this back in.
Yeah, this will be the lap time to take notice of, Jared. He's finally in clear air. Daniel Sheriffs did a 53.2 on that last lap. I'm pretty sure that he has either fanned the throttle on the way out of the last corner and just let Jamie McKnight through, or he's hung the thing up on the rev limiter, because he certainly looked like he hit a wall when McKnight came past. But what we are seeing now, the battle for or back up to first, we can see that Vanderkran has got around Scotty Rankin. So it'll be interesting to see here, what does Rankin do? Does he want to fight back, or is he? Yes, he does want to fight back.
He's looking. He's looking.
But it will just be interesting to see if it was me and I was Scott Rankin, tuck onto the back of Matt Vanderkran here. Don't do anything silly. Continue to gap the pack. The last thing that you want to do is get into a fight, because what we can see is immediately Jeff Thomas is up on the back there. So I would expect that little battle for Vanderkran to get in front. He's got sick of waiting for Rankin, and it has slowed him up a little bit. So we'll check their lap times as they come across the start-finish line here. But I think that we've missed a little bit of a battle for the lead, and we've seen those guys having a bit of a ding-dong fight to try and get to swap those positions around, and exactly as expected, a 53.1 from Vanderkran, a 54.1 from Scotty Rankin. What that tells me, Scotty Rankin's made a mistake, but Vanderkran has been held up a little bit trying to make that pass happen.
Back.
Jeff Thomas immediately on the back of him.
Let's go back and take a look at it. What's happened here? So this is where the pass has been made. Rankin's already out wide and off the pace at that point, so not entirely sure where it's gone wrong for Rankin, but it's certainly been enough. It could be, though, given how composed he was there, I do wonder if maybe he's backed it off to let Vanderkran through and then look to just tack on the back. Maybe he felt he was holding Vanderkran up. Look, hard to say. It's not like Rankin to give away any positions, even if he does still know that he's got that pit stop up the sleeve that he has to go through at the moment.
No, of course.
It's an interesting choice.
It is, and if you think about the rest of the race, the longer that he can hold Vanderkran up now is the better position that he's in after he pits for tyres. If it was me and I was battling for position, even if I had to go to the pits again, I wouldn't have been giving away a position. I have a feeling that Scotty Rankin there has made a mistake a couple of corners before we picked it up, Jared, and seen Vanderkran come through. But what's done is done. Jeff Thomas is all over the back of him, and it wouldn't doesn't matter what God you wanted to pray to at the moment, Matt Vanderkraan will be praying to anyone that will listen that Scotty Rankin now holds up Jeff Thomas for as long as possible, because as you commented before, Jared, Jeff Thomas is still quick tonight, and it wouldn't take much of a mistake for Matt Vanderkraan to be straight back in his clutches.
And speaking of quick, that the lap time's about to come through as well, so keep an eye on this. A 1:52.48 for Vanderkraan. Jeff Thomas a bit slower, 1:53.29, pretty much the same timing as Rankin. So Rankin may be starting to hold Thomas up a little bit here, because they are right locked in together. We're keeping an eye here on Dean Logsdale, who's under pressure from Michael Schroeder, while caught up in the middle of this pack. The battle for 7th here, realistically a battle for 4th though, just too many names for us to fit on our screen at this point. But yeah, Vanderkraan looking to extend while he can. Jamie McKnight ran a 52.66 there in that lap as well, so he's certainly found his pace, and he'll be looking to close the gap to Thomas and get back into contention for perhaps a second place at the end of the night.
Yeah, as we see Dean Logsdale there just pinch a front brake on the way into that corner, which meant that he missed the apex, lost a couple of tenths out to Schroeder behind, and that won't be what he wanted. Just as he was starting to look at the car in front, immediately he's back looking in his mirrors and making sure that Schroeder doesn't have a way past.
Plenty going on right through the pack. Let's take a look back at the battle for 21st, Hayes has closed right up on Todd Martin. So have a look at him. He's really attacking here and finding himself offline as a result, just not anticipating the braking of Todd Martin. Now, whether that's been intentional from Martin or just pure luck, you've got to take it either way. It's something you can do, though, isn't it, Josh, to throw drivers off is just not braking in quite the way they'd expect, and it can be enough to really open that gap right back up.
Yeah, it is, and it's a big defensive strategy that we employ, and particularly when we're on older tyres and the risk is driving off the corner. We really talk about what we call it as parking it on the apex, and to do that we will slow down just a little bit more than usual and not accelerate as early as usual, and it means that the car behind catches us and they can't accelerate either. It just takes away all that advantage of drive out of the corner. As we do see Scotty Rankin runs wide, so I would suggest that it's been a while since he's been in pits and those tyres are starting to hurt, although as you call, Jared, maybe he's just using that corner to get out of the way and let the guys behind through. Maybe he does realise just how far out of this he is and doesn't want to hold anyone up. But what I will call out, the last lap, Vanderkraan doing a 52.5, Jeff Thomas doing a 53 flat, so Vanderkraan has continued to run, although we now see Jamie McKnight putting a move on Scotty Rankin, so I can't imagine that there'll be much longer that Scotty Rankin is prepared to be out on track and bleeding this time. He is going to have to do something soon and take that medicine and get back out there. The last thing that he wants to do is run himself so long before his last pit stop that he doesn't have any laps up his sleeve with those beautiful brand new tyres to make some passes. If there's one thing that we know about Scott Rankin, it's that he can pass in these supercars. We saw it in the last race and at other rounds this series. He can make those passes, so I think that he needs to get into the pits, get those fresh boots on, and really start to make some moves.
Yeah, look, I think he's just running out of pace at this point. Like, the one thing to get off to the side and let these other drivers through, but to run off into the grass like that, I think he's actually pushing perhaps a lot harder than the car's body language is telling us right now, and really finding the limits of what he's able to do here. Staying out on track again, Jamie McKnight now on the inside coming into turn 1, so McKnight's got a beautiful run out of that last corner, and he'll take the spot. But in amongst all of that, have a look at Vanderkraan starting to extend, takes another 6-7 tenths out of Jeff Thomas, and now approaching a 3-second gap. There it is, you can see it, and Vanderkraan starting to open up that gap with only really 7 laps to go. I don't think he's in a fuel saving strategy at this point.
No, he pitted with plenty of time to go. He would have been able to fill very comfortably to what he wanted in the tank, and then of course straight away after he did that fill, he immediately got a safety car. So I can assure you that Matt Vanderkrant has more fuel than he can poke a stick at, and the only limiting factor for him is his tyres and his understanding and experience on this track. So Matt Vanderkrant will be pushing absolutely as fast as he feels he can without risking bowling a wide, and he is doing a fantastic job at the moment of extending that gap. We do look back here to 15th. Vigor and Sipple back together again, still battling. These guys, from my understanding, pretty good mates. Obviously racing for opposing teams, and it doesn't matter what paint's on your car, you want to be faster than the people around you. But these guys are absolutely going at it, and I think that by the end of tonight, they're going to be sick of looking at each other, to be honest.
I just want to jump up front again here because Scott Rankin has started to reel Jamie McKnight in again, and closing that gap back up and extending the gap behind him to Sheriff. So I don't know if these guys have just caught a second wind on these tyres or what the story is, but for just a moment it looked like Rankin was actually going to try and take that spot back. As it stands, he's not got the run that he needs to do it. And Vanderkrant and Thomas really matching lap times, only about a tenth being pulled back by Thomas there. So Vanderkrant has come off the pace just a little bit, now into just barely into the 53s. But that could well be enough because Jeff Thomas only just managing to get into the 52s. With not many laps left to go, Vanderkrant's in a pretty prime position at the moment. Right behind though, this battle continues for 5th. Sheriffs, Buckland, Spriggs, Varga and Logsdale all still very much amongst it. Keep in mind, Scott Rankin, Daniel Sheriffs and Gary Buckland all have a second pit stop to make here. So I don't know when you're planning on doing that.
I just don't understand the play, Jared. I fully understand and agree with the theory when you do get caught behind a safety car of needing to run some laps to see the grid spread, and so that it minimises the damage when you do make the pit stop. But on the other hand, there's no point running on old tyres all the way through to lap 26 or 27, pitting for that fresh rubber that you have to get and then not being able to use it. There has to be a balancing act of getting the field to spread a little bit, but giving yourself enough laps with good rubber to make those passes. So I'll be honest, I am at a point right now where I'm a little bewildered. I don't understand the strategy that these guys are going for. Obviously they've got something in mind. Maybe they know something about the race that I don't. Maybe they, there's a piece of the rules that they understand that I don't, or maybe there's just some situational awareness that they've got about where they're going to pop out. But from where I sit up here in the commentary box with the information that I have available to me, although as we do see the two old mate and son cars, they dive in together, so they're going to give themselves 5 laps to make up as much effort as they can. I think we'll see them do 2 tyres and get straight back out there. So Jared, I'm interested to see what the time in the box is. But they'll be looking to get out on track and get going again, as we see once again Scotty Rankin a lock up into the corner. He is pushing that car very, very hard, and I'll be interested to see, once we do see Buckland and Sheriffs back out on track, what is the undercut or overcut. So I'll be very interested to see when we finally see Rankin pit, what is going to be the difference in their time on track, and was it better to get in early, or should they or was it staying out later that worked?
Yeah, I think if we look back at the timings on all these, as we see Sipple and VR going at it, some contact there, and VR's car showing a few battle scars as a result. I think really the timing of it is, and I'm trying to think back to when we had that first safety car. It was around lap 10, lap 11, but I just wonder if those guys got caught out a little bit by the timing of that safety car, and not actually getting the second stop as a possibility. I suspect that they perhaps being further back in the field were actually coming in for their first stop after the safety car had been called. Because when you think about Vanderkrant, Thomas, McKnight, those guys all got some reasonably early stops in around lap sort of 9, lap 10. and then so that was under the first safety car, and then of course we had the second that let them get away with that. I think really for some of these drivers that are, as Scott Rankin goes into the pits now as well, I think for some of these drivers it's just a case of not anticipating a second safety car quite so soon after, and then perhaps counting on a third one to get them out of trouble, and that's just not going to be the case for them tonight. We look further up the field, the battle for fourth now, Spriggs, Varga and Logsail still going at it, so all three looking ahead and probably starting to wonder if they can reel the front three in just the few laps that remain here. Vanderkraan, though, extending his lead out to over 3 seconds now, and you've got to think he's got this one wrapped up at this point, lapping at 1:53 dead last lap, 2/10 quicker than Thomas, a 10th quicker than McKnight. So perhaps we'll see a battle here for P2 between McKnight and Thomas in these last 5 laps.
It would be wonderful to see. I'm maybe not so optimistic, but of course always willing. I'm very interested to see whether Vargs can get up onto the back of Spriggs and battle it out for that last podium spot, which will be interesting to see. And you know, just to call back to that point that I made before, Scotty Rankin coming out in between Buckland and Sheriff. So obviously that pit 1 lap earlier allowed Gary Buckland to get on with it and make up some time, because Scotty Rankin was definitely further up the track than Buckland was when Buckland first peeled in for a pit stop. So this just brings me back to that comment that I made before, Jared, about, you know, trying to really balance out that difference between you know, pitting late, letting the field spread, versus pitting early and maximising laps on fresh rubber.
Have a look at Rankin taking a massive look up the inside at the end of Bentley Straight there. That would have been a very brave dive to try and take both those cars. Buckland now trying to find his way past Hardy. I think both Buckland and Rankin have the pace here over James Hardy, and they're just getting a little frustrated almost being stuck behind him. They want to get on with it. At this point late in the race, so they're really risking taking themselves out. I can't see them making up a huge deal of distance ahead as we take a look further up as well. Rick Vigar under all sorts of pressure from Matthew Stoyles as well, but just behind them on track. And here comes Rankin. Look at this move. He's throwing that car side to side, looking for a way past Buckland, just filling the mirrors on both sides of the car, and almost looking for a way around the outside. Buckland, though, as always, staying very, very steady.
And, big slide there for Rankin on the way out.
Yeah, he's pushing really hard right now, isn't he?
He is, and you know, I've got to be honest, 5.5 seconds from Hardy up to Walden. I'm not sure that it's worth pushing quite as hard as they are. There's probably no hope of reeling in those 5.5 seconds to the end of the race. So if I was Buckland and Rankin right now, I would be head down. I think they've got the pace to get in front of Hardy, but that's realistically about as much as they can do other than a battle with each other. So rather than, you know, being ultra aggressive like they are, sometime over the next lap or so, find that corner, make that pass stick, and just get back on about racing, because this desperation to get to the front, as you said, Jared, the highest chance of what's going to happen here is that they take either Hardy out trying to make the move, or they take each other out, and of course we don't want to see that for many of them.
All three here could quite easily end up off the track together, and Sheriffs has an opportunity to go past Buckland. A huge look up the inside as well. So he's putting the pressure on Hardy, wants to try and force that mistake. And there it is, Hardy rides very wide, so this is going to be what Buckland needs. Gets the inside, there's going to be contact here if they're not careful. Buckland continuing to push, backs off. It's a good thing it's Gary Buckland behind him, because if it was anyone else, I reckon they would have sent it through that gap. Buckland, the wise choice to stay in this race. And again, these guys find themselves stuck behind Hardy as they come onto the main straight. Tell you what, for a battle for 16th, it's a little bit high intensity, isn't it, Josh?
Yeah, it is. That is the way of these guys. These guys race hard and fast the whole way through. Doesn't matter what position they're in. and I think it's fantastic to see. There's nothing more deflating than when you see people who have obviously given up because they're not happy with how their race is going. And as we do see, Buckland's finally got that move made on Hardy, and Scotty Rankin was able at the exact same time to just follow through and make the most of the door that had been opened by Gary Buckland, which of course now sets Scott Rankin free to chase down Gary Buckland, see what he can do, and see if he can put a move on for what is in all reality the last position that he can make up in this race. But I can guarantee you that he won't care that it's only 16th that he's fighting for. He wants those points.
I want to take you back just a little way. We're watching this battle further up for fourth with Logsdale, Vargas, Spriggs and Schroeder all amongst it. But I want to take you back to have a quick look at some of the moves that were going on while we were watching Rankin and Buckland making their way through. Check out this massive lock up here, and that of course has sent Jason Spriggs very, very wide, which allows Varga through. But then, of course, immediately after, big contact, because those tyres get locked up. That sends Varga wide. Logsdale sneaks through on Varga. There's a bit of movement going on there in this little battle pack.
There is, and I can tell you right now that Dean Logsdale, he feels a little bit like Moses there, with the sea parting for him and just being able to drive through, and he won't be at all disappointed with that little mistake from Spriggs that saw him lock up and get into the back of Varg. So he's up now in fourth, and 2 laps to go. He will be head down, just making sure that he doesn't make any mistakes and can consolidate that fourth position.
Absolutely. It's good points on offer here for all of these drivers. They've just got to be thinking about how much risk is worth the reward of those couple extra points. And that's always the challenge. When you're into these last couple of laps, you just want to go for that one more position, don't you? Every single time.
You do, and it's such an easy trap to fall into, Jared. There's so many mistakes that you can make in these cars, and a track like this, lots of corners on this track, so so easy to fall into that trap. But guys doing a fantastic job at the moment. We can see now that things have just settled down a bit. Those gaps have extended out just ever so slightly. I think that we're pretty much set up the front, but this battle for fourth is fantastic. And of course now, once again, 2 of our favourite names tonight, Sippel and Vigor, absolutely all over each other as usual, and Stalls in there as well. Having fun there
from Sippel.
We can absolutely see these guys, they don't care that it's 12th. They don't care that they're heading towards the start of their final lap. They are driving these things like they stole them and doing everything they can. And of course, Sippel, probably counting his lucky stars, makes a pretty big mistake on corner exit. And of course, whether it be self-preservation or respect for his competitor, Troy Vigor, being forced to get out of it, and having to slow down. I'm not sure it was how he meant to do it, but Troy Sippel bought himself 0.6 of a gap there through what was in all reality a pretty big mistake to make.
Absolutely. We'll jump further up because Jeff Thomas just been keeping an eye on this gap to Jay McKnight, and McKnight has just been pulling a couple of tenths at every corner. So he's still pushing hard. You can see Vanderkraan in front there. I don't know if McKnight can get him by the end of this lap, but he's certainly doing everything he can to try and catch up to Thomas. At this point, surely fuel not an issue for these guys. Vanderkraan, though, clear air in front and behind. Thomas McKnight, it looks at this stage, touch wood, that we've got our podium sorted. But we'll have to just make sure that, of course, Vanderkraan makes it around this last sequence of corners. We'll stay with him as we come around for the last time here tonight. Race 2 at Snetterton. It's been an eventful one, but somehow these three have managed to come out of it relatively unscathed and really just getting the luck of the draw with pit stops and safety cars. But some solid planning and certainly some very, very impressive drives all the way through. Matt Vanderkraan, though, rounds that last corner, just as straight to come. I can't see there being any issues here as he crosses the line for his second win tonight ahead of Jeff Thomas, and Jay McKnight just couldn't get there in the end. Dean Logsdale looking to come through for fourth for Team AJR ahead of Stephen Varga, Jason Spriggs, and then Michael Schroeder and Peter Sattler going right to the line, the three of them finishing very, very close together. Damon Fisher from Team AJR coming across in ninth as well. As we look back a little further to this battle still going on, and Vigar's going to manage to hold off Stoyles in the end, so Sipple retains his 12th, but Vigar's on a massive run to the line, and Sipple just giving it a bit of the old weave in front of him. Look, a fantastic finish for those guys as well. Gary Buckland right on the back of Darren Roldan coming through there as well, and Scott Rankin flashing the lights in the background.
That's probably the biggest celebration I've ever seen for a 17th place, but good to see Scotty Rankin still having some fun and excited to get that race finished off.
Look, you've got to celebrate a drive like that, because it was a pretty epic drive despite the finishing position. So let's not take anything away from it. Jeff Thomas, though, a stellar drive as well, and of course the Accelerate entries of Jason Spriggs and Michael Schroeder not too far back. So it will be interesting to see how this all pans out for our overall standings. I can see someone back there is having a bit of fun with their last tyres. We're going to try and find who it actually is that's smoking them up in the background. There it is. It's Scotty Rankin. Of course it's Scotty Rankin.
It's the biggest celebration for 17th ever recorded does continue. And if there's one thing that I can say, Jared, the only thing more fun than racing these supercars is doing donuts and rolling burnouts in them. And of course, look at that. Looks like one of the old mate and sons cars. I can't quite make out who it is, but one of the cars there might be out of fuel. And
these guys
got enough fuel to do a rolling burnout. So
doing what they can. It's what we'd love to see.
Nothing more fun, Jared. These cars, true to life, you can absolutely roll the brake bias forward and put on a pretty good smoke show. So nothing that we love seeing more, but our results up here, as we talked about through the race. Matt Vanderkraan getting the win from Jeff Thomas and Jamie McKnight representing Fishy Motorsports, rounding out the podium. Dean Logsdale for Team AJR, 11 seconds back and making the most of that move that we saw where he was able to part the season and come through. Stephen Varga, Jason Spriggs, Michael Schroeder, Peter Sattler and Damon Fisher Jim Caparonis rounding out the top 10. From Andrew Hoffman, Troy Sipple and Rick Vigar. I will just take the opportunity while we're here to comment on the fact that Rick Vigar was able to make up 14 spots in that race, which is fantastic to see. Leading out Matthew Stoyles, Darren Walden, Gary Buckland, Scotty Rankin in the world's biggest 17th position celebrations, James Hardy in 18th position. A fantastic group of guys there that have been able to race hard all the way to the end. I don't know about you, Jared, but I love seeing those guys battle the whole way through.
Absolutely. Let's bring our third place finisher, Jamie McKnight, into the booth. Jamie, you with us there, mate?
Yes, I'm here. How are you?
Mate, doing well. What a drive from you this evening. That was massive effort. It's been a little while since we last spoke to you. Congratulations on the result.
Ohasashi buri, which means it's been a while.
There you go.
It's been a long, long time, mate. Yeah, but starting to get my head around this car, so it's starting to feel like it's coming to me.
Mate, it was a solid drive. We watched you drop right back through the pack there for a while, but a massive recovery to end up in P3. And perhaps the safety car's just falling your way a little bit kindly as well. Fate smiling on you this evening.
Definitely. I need a bit of luck.
Mate,
Sorry, what was that, mate?
What was the toughest part of that this evening for you?
To be honest, when I had Varga with me in race one, he always keeps me honest, as you know. We've had a very long rivalry and there's no bars hold. We just go in full stick, and I was worried he was going to give me just a little push in some of those real long apex corners. But to give him his credit, we raced really well together. Then I was more managing the field because I did make sure that I short filled as much as I thought I could get away with. And I ended up having plenty, but I wasn't sure with a couple laps to go, so I was just making sure that I lifted up a little bit, got home, but really enjoyed the race. Congrats to Matt Vanderkraan and Jeff Thomas, thoroughly deserved, and good race.
Solid night of racing. Well done, mate. We'll let you go and celebrate with a couple of well-deserved drinks. And it's been a little bit too long between them.
Thanks,
well
guys.
done, mate. P3, enjoy.
Thank you very much. See you next week, hopefully.
Fingers crossed, Jamie. Cheers.
See you, mate.
And a great result for Jamie McKnight there. And we will, of course, bring in P2 for this evening. Jeff Thomas, welcome back to the booth, mate.
G'day, lads. How are you?
Look, doing well. You're putting on the show for us tonight. That was a pretty intense second race. A couple of safety cars in there to mix it all up. But when all is said and done, you've walked away with a second place despite some intense pressure towards the end there from Jamie McKnight as he tried to reel you in. At what point did you feel pretty comfortable that you were going to wrap up a podium spot there, or was it really not until you crossed the line at the end?
I could see Jamie had pretty good pace. You know, there was some laps that I could match him maybe a little bit better than others where he'd definitely pull some time out of me. But yeah, probably 3 from home. I figured that we were comfortable. I was never going to catch Matt. Just chatting with Scotty Rankin there before, you know, he couldn't get his first stop done before the safety car, so he was sort of mugged there a little bit. So he just tried to race us a little bit and then not hold us up too much, which was great. So thanks to him for that. Yeah, but yeah, congrats to Matt. He had pace on me. You know, I have to work a little bit before our Thursday night race and see what we can find.
I've got to ask Jeff, when you did, come out of the pits under that safety car, and I think from memory there was maybe 3 cars in between you and Matty Vanderkraan. Did you know that they hadn't done their second stop? Were you comfortable that you just had to trundle around behind them, or were you a bit worried that you buried yourself in the pack?
No, I think in the end it was really only Scott Rankin was off 1, and then it was Matty, and then I think it was me. So we got rid of the lap car. Rosie, I think, went. That's why we did an extra lap under the safety car, and that didn't bother me because I was actually a little bit close to the wind if we didn't do that lap for fuel. So I was quite happy to do another one.
No, look, it's good to see, mate. You drove a fantastic race. I think that it's a thoroughly deserved podium, and you put on a pretty healthy show for us. So from where I sat, I thoroughly enjoyed it, mate.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thanks to you guys putting on a great stream. All the guys that turn up and race every week, and the organisers put on a good show as far as the series goes. So yeah, all round pats on the back.
Well driven, Jeff, and congrats again on the second place, the second step of the podium for you in race 2 here tonight at Snetterton. Looking forward to hopefully chatting to you again over the next few rounds, eh?
Yeah, that'd be good. We'll see how we get on.
Fingers crossed, mate. Cheers.
Thanks.
And look, we've got to do this again, Josh. It's been a long time since we last spoke to him, but let's see if we can convince him to come back and see if he remembers how to chat to us. Matt Vanderkraan, how are you, mate?
Who is this?
Who is this?
Well, I reckon that Matt Vanderkraan, I give him 1 more week, and there's just going to be a post-it note on the bottom of his screen with what he's going to say at the end of race 1 and what he's going to say at the end of race 2, the way it feels at the moment.
It's a nice little run, but I know, like all sporting activities, enjoy the good stuff while it lasts, because it's a roller coaster ride, and it's going well at the moment, but I know I've got to work hard to keep it there.
Look, you definitely were working hard there, and the payoff for you, despite those couple of safety cars, still finishing 3 seconds ahead, mate. The pace tonight was phenomenal. I want to put this down to something like perhaps a different setup, but being that it's all fixed setups, is it just that you've gotten to grips better with this car than the rest of the field at the moment? What do you think it is that's finding you with so much extra pace lap after lap?
Yeah, I think I've just been fortunate. Life leads me in a position where I can put a few extra laps in, and being a new car, I've probably been able to get a few extra miles under my belt, and that makes a difference. When you look at some of the blokes in this field, Spriggs and Jeff Thomas, let alone the People's Champion McKnight, Dean Logsdale, what a great race he had tonight. So I was gutted and happy for him I was gutted and sad in the second race. He was having a great race, but I was happy to get him off my ass when he made his little mistake.
I can imagine, yeah, absolutely. But all in all, mate, a huge night for you. We were talking before before the race started tonight, before race 1, around your lead in this championship and extending it just a little bit further again this evening. When do you think you'll start to feel comfy about perhaps having a hand on that championship trophy again this season?
Nah, not until the last races, last lap of the last race is done, mate. Anything can happen, and I am prone to making brain fades like you would not believe, let alone genuine errors. So I won't get put the cart before the horse until the work is done, and there's still a lot of work to go. So I'm not even thinking about it. I'm just race by race at this point in time. Don't you love that cliche? Go me.
Absolutely, mate. You got to throw them out there.
Matt, if I can just ask, let's forget about tonight. We had a chat to you at the end of race 1. You've had a fantastic night. We discussed in between the 2 races about the endurance series coming up. Are you excited for that? How does this change your approach to V8 racing? Have you lined up a teammate? I'm certainly not offering. I'm about 6 seconds a lap off your pace, I reckon. But I'm very interested to hear your thoughts. Is this something that you're super excited about? Because I know as a driver, I personally think that endurance racing is some of the most fun style of racing, and I reckon that you guys having this little endurance series coming up is a pretty cool thing.
Oh, absolutely, mate. It's the bee's knees. I love endurance racing, and I haven't done enough of it. I've probably done 3. So I really can't wait. I've had a nibble or 2 for partners. Not letting anything out of the bag as yet. But, can't wait, mate. It's just the strategy, you spend 6 hours with your teammate or however long it is, working through the whole race together. It's such a great experience. Yeah, cannot wait.
And what do you reckon of the tracks that the guys have put together? Phillip Island, Sandown and Bathurst. Bit of a challenge coming up.
Well, heads up, I'm not very good at Phillip Island. I'm not very good at Bathurst. I'm okay at Sandown. So I've got some work to do. Not my fastest tracks, but I love driving them. So look forward to it.
I don't know if you heard that, Matt, but I reckon that was a collective sigh of relief across every single member of ASR. But I'm very excited to hang out with you guys again and see what happens. Jared, I don't know about you, but if I can't get enough of ASR on a Tuesday night, I reckon that ASR Enduro is going to be a ball of fun.
Absolutely will be. And Matty, look, we'll see how you go with pairing, but whoever does end up in the car with you is certainly looking pretty strong already. Congrats again on taking out both wins tonight in both races, and we will no doubt be speaking to you again at some point between now and the end of the season at the rate you're going, Matt.
I hope so, boys. Love your work, and hopefully talk to you in the near future.
Fingers crossed, mate. Enjoy the win tonight.
Will do. Thank you.
We take a look now, just before we end tonight's coverage, at the updated championship standings, of course provisional and not accounting for drop rounds, etc. But as it stands right now, Matt Vanderkraan continues to dominate this championship ahead of Jason Spriggs. Dean Logsdale, after tonight's results, may just jump a couple of spots there up into P3, perhaps unsettling Stephen Varga, but only just 2 points in it for the lowest step of the podium at the end of the season, with 3 rounds left to go here. Gary Buckland, Steve Tonkin, Jim Caparonis all having good nights as well for their points tallies. Damien Cairns, of course, not participating tonight, will drop a few positions as we see a few moves throughout the rest of the pack. Anthony Visma, a notable absence tonight, down 9 positions as well. So I dare say that he is looking like being out of the running for this time around. But Jason Spriggs still very much in amongst it. Josh Harris, another fantastic night of racing here. I don't know about you, but I can't call this championship yet. Jason Spriggs, very, very strong. Dean Logsdale, still not out of it. And Matt Vanderkraan, he's been pretty unflappable, really, all season, but it wouldn't take a lot for some of these guys to catch up if he does have one bad round still left in him.
No, look, I think the thing that's really dawned on me as I've watched Matt Vanderkraan tonight, he talked in that interview with us just then, Jared, about the fact that he does have the potential to make some, brain fade mistakes. But what I have seen in my time with ASR from the first round until now is a guy that has completely and entirely come to grips with this new Gen 3 car. Matt was pretty open and honest when he first started when round one first started about the challenges that this new car was presenting. But through that ability to put in maybe more laps than other people, Matty van der Kraan appears to be really coming to grips with this car. And I think that the brain fade moments that he has are pretty minor compared to others. And Matt van der Kraan said he's not prepared to call it until the very end of the series, and I certainly am a firm believer that nothing's over until the fat lady sings. But I can assure you, Jared, that she is waiting in the wings and clearing her throat as we speak.
Yeah, Matt van der Kraan's certainly looking very, very tough to beat at this point. But of course, if you want to catch all that action, just 3 rounds left to go. 3 more weeks of racing here in Season 3 of the V8 Supercars series with Alliance Sim Racing. We will be crowning another champion in just a few weeks' time. Make sure you don't miss any of that racing action. Make sure that you have, of course, subscribe down below so you do get those reminders when we are going live every Tuesday night. And keep in touch as well as we bring you more information on that Endurance Championship as it unfolds over the coming weeks. Outside of that, though, it's a wrap on tonight's racing action. A massive thank you, of course, to all of the drivers, the teams that are involved, and, of course, you, the viewers, for joining us. As I said before, if you've enjoyed this coverage, make sure you do give us a thumbs up, give us a subscribe, and make sure you click that little bell so you don't miss any more of our iRacing coverage. From all of us here at Simple Racing Broadcast, my name is Jared Cole. I've been here alongside Josh Harris tonight. We are signing off, but until next time, make sure you stay safe, but stay quick, and we'll see you on the track again next week. Goodbye for now.